Katie's not coming tonight. Do you want to announce anything about her later, or should I? Oh, you did. That's true. Okay, that sounds good.
Yes, I don't have nothing to say. Hey, how's it going? Nothing to say.
I wish I could.
Thank you very much. I don't want to talk about it. All right.
Welcome, everyone. Before we begin the meeting, we will have a prayer by Councilman Graham, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear gracious God, we give you the glory. We give you the praise. We give you thanksgiving. We give you honor. We hallow your name. We bless you. We magnify you. We lift you up. God, we realize in heaven and on earth there is but one name by which we can be saved. Lord, we thank you. We scream out your name to the rooftops, that your name is more powerful than any principality, any position, any government, any office, or any institution. Lord, we humble ourselves, thanking you for grace and mercy. And thank you for honoring us with a brand new day. God, the reality is thousands of people have died from COVID-19, and yet you have kept us alive. God, we praise you on this day because you've been so good. We thank you on this day that even in this moment, you are healing us. Thank you, Lord, that there is no disease on record that you have not healed your people from. God, we pause to honor your sovereign power, that more people have recovered from COVID-19 than have died from COVID-19. Lord, anybody who calls your name today, incline your ear towards them. God, whether they be in a hotel, whether they be in a barrack, whether in a dormitory, shelter, in a mansion, in an apartment, or on a street corner, God, answer their prayer today. Thank you, dear Lord, that you have no gloves when it comes to us. You touch us in our most vulnerable places. You touch us in the areas where we are weakened and sickened and filthy and broken. God, we thank you. You wear no mask when it comes to us. That you kiss us afresh and anew, from the top of our head to the sole of our feet. God, we give you the glory because you have no contamination, but you fill us with your love and your power. Lord, come see about your children today. I pray, dear Lord, that you will disarm and dismantle the ways of the wicked, that they will not be found victorious in this hour. We stand firmly that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. God, we declare with authority that we are healed because of your stripes. God, I am not ashamed to tell you we need you. And if we are honest, if we ever need you before, we need you now. Lord, I thank you for allowing this little old country boy from Alabama to be able to share with others about your love. Like the words of one of my favorite songs, I'm just a nobody trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody. Now, Lord, I ask you to continue to bless this world, our country, our state, our city. Lord, you will, nothing more, nothing less, nothing else. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone, to the Monday, August 3rd, 2020 City Council meeting. And you can join this meeting by phone at 404-397-1516. The meeting number is 146-238-8017. The meeting password is 1234. And that information and the agenda is posted at jeffersoncitymod.gov. So I will call the meeting to order. Mrs. Donaldson, roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Present.
Graham.
Here.
Hensley.
Present.
Hussey.
Here.
Kimna.
Here.
Lester.
Here.
Schreiber. Vogt.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Wiseman.
Present. Item 3, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Hey, Madam Mayor, I have a motion to amend the agenda in two ways.
Yes, please.
First would be to move Bill 2020-006 from its current location at item number 13A up to item 4A for action this evening. And the second way would be to amend the agenda by adding item 4C, which would be an update from Cole County Health Department Director Christy Campbell.
Thank you, Councilman Hensley. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes with those changes. Item 4, miscellaneous agenda items. Item A, veterans here to present a check for the Veterans Plaza renovation. And we have with us Mr. Don Hinches. We'd like to welcome you to the podium, Mr. Hal Dooley as well, and Mr. Smith will give us an update on that.
Don't be shy, Hal. You've never been in your life.
What are you saying?
Madam Mayor, it's my pleasure to stand here with you with these two fine gentlemen and members of our Veterans Council. The Veterans Council, we started trying to put together a project to improve the Veterans Memorial, and as such, got a project that we really thought was going to be good and put it out to bid and came in a little bit short. And through the discussions on the money, Don Hinches was able to work with a group in town and was able to get us over the hump. And if Don would like to say anything, I'll pass it on to him for that.
I just want to thank the city for all they've done to bring this project forward. On behalf of all the veterans in the area and the members of the Veterans Council, all the organizations that make up the Veterans Council, we're very pleased that we're going to enhance the memorial and enlarge it, and it's our honor to contribute to get this project started. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hinches and Mr. Dooley, and for the service that you've given to our great country. We appreciate that, and for what you've done to bring honor to other veterans. So we are going to take up the bill this evening, or the bill now while you're here. We've moved it on the agenda so that we can do that while you're here and have the check presentation following that. So, Mr. Smith, if you would like to give us the summary for 2020 number 6. So
I think the clerk would like to read it first.
Yes, thank you. Mrs. Donaldson, please.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Circle Contracting in the amount of $136,800 for the Veterans Plaza Renovations project, approving a supplemental appropriation from the J.C. Veterans Plaza Trust Fund balance, and accepting a donation and corresponding budget amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yes, as the clerk mentioned, this is a contract with Circle Construction in the amount of $136,800. Through this project, we were able to add additional viewing display cases for additional bricks, as well as modify the existing structures to accommodate more bricks. The end result will be approximately 1,000 brick addition to our plaza. And through the works of the various veterans groups here in town, we'll have the opportunity to have some more engraved bricks with some names of some local veterans on them displayed in those areas. All the funds for this project come from the previous brick sales, and then, of course, the donation from the Veterans Council. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councilman Graham?
What is the cost per brick if someone wanted to purchase a brick?
I wanted to make sure I had that number right, because we just changed it. It's $125 for a brick, and any veteran who is honorably served and been discharged can have a brick bought in their name.
Okay.
Any further questions? Okay. So with that, we appreciate this, and so we have the check presentation and appreciate the donation for the bricks.
Well, we had to actually have the check in the bank to be able to get that contract moving forward, so there's actually no physical check, and we didn't, in the days of COVID, we didn't bring the big master check. So we can just all assume there is one, or maybe there's a nice person who could Photoshop one in.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate that, and while you're here, if you would like to get a check, we could use, if you'd like to write a check for a brick, I think that would be appropriate. But if you would like, we could do a photo. You mentioned Photoshop, but we could certainly do one and put out there that if people want to purchase a brick, that they can reach out, and as you're continuing to fundraise for this project, if you would like.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we still need a roll call on the matter.
Okay. Sorry about that. We will do a roll call vote with no other questions. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Vogt.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman. Aye.
Bill passes, and thank you again for the hard work. I know this is something you all have been putting a lot of hours and work into, a lot of meetings, and coordinating with donors in the community to make this a reality, and we really appreciate it. So with that, any other things to announce? Okay, we'll do our virtual check presentation, and we will be sure to share that so that others can join in and continue to contribute to this project. Thank you. So I think we did it last time where council stayed at their seat or come a little closer, however we want to do that.
I think she's going to stand in the well there if you guys want to be on either side. Thursday at 3. Thursday at 3. Okay. Remind me.
I'll talk to you in the morning to let you know we're going to get
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was nice smile.
Thank you.
watch for you tonight.
Volleyball. That's what we're playing here tonight.
All right, item B, we are going to recognize recently retired Fire Captain Darren Reuter, retiring with 30 years of service. Chief Schofield.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'll ask that Captain Reuter and his wife Renee join me up here. When we talk about honoring Darren, people are like, well, who is that? We don't even know him by his first name, Darren. Those of you who know Darren, you may know that his name affectionately is Bear, and he is known as such throughout the community. So we're here tonight to recognize Captain Darren Reuter. He started with the fire department November 19th, 1989, and served through April 6, 2020. He's been an EMT since 1991, and his last assignment was as a captain on Squad 2 on A shift. Many of his A shift co-workers are here tonight. Captain Reuter, it's appropriate that we honor you tonight after the Veterans Council action. He served his country in the United States Marine Corps, and as he'll be quick to remind you, He was once a Marine, and he is always a Marine, I believe he would tell you. There's no such thing as a former Marine. So we've all had to learn that working with Darren over the years, but he's been good to educate us on that. And he's also been part of many capacities in various civic groups and veterans organizations, very active, and remains so throughout the community now. Back in April, we did have a virtual retirement gathering for Darren, and it left a lot to be desired, although it was probably a first for us in the fire department. We knew that we wanted to bring him back here before the council and before the mayor and the community to recognize his 30 years of service. We also did not present to him at that time his plaque, so we gave him this piece of scrap wood with Sharpie. It's a coupon to redeem for, in the future, a recognition plaque of 30 years of dedicated service. So he told me he wanted to keep this, so I'm going to present that to him first.
Thank you.
But we do have a few other things to give him here tonight. We have his badge, his gold captain's badge that his assistant chief has, and we'll bring that up here in just a moment. We have his red helmet, his captain's helmet there that we present to all retired firefighters after 15 years of service. And then we also have a plaque here that we're going to present to him. So those are the things that the fire department has. And Madam Mayor, I believe you have a few things as well.
I do, and I will be honored to present to you this key to the city today in honor of your retirement and your 30 years of service to the city. We sincerely appreciate that all you've done for the fire department, and I know that we do know you as Bear, and I think I've called you our Bear, and so I know that that has kind of been your nickname too. So because when we hear about Bear, and you're definitely talking about our Bear, and we take that seriously that you are for all of us. You work so hard for the citizens, and it shows, and we've been very fortunate. We wish you the best in your retirement. I know that you will remain very busy and active. In fact, you've been doing a lot to give back to organizations such as Honor Flight and other veterans organizations and military groups. For example, you've been doing some woodworking, and this display here is something that hangs in the mayor's office that was purchased for an organization that you continue to give back to. So I know that you have it in your heart for those that have served our country, and we appreciate your service to our country as well to the fire department. So you will be missed, but we also look forward to working with you on these other projects in the future. And I will ask if council has any comments that they would like to add at this time. Well, I know that they share in my well wishes. Councilman Graham?
I just want to say congratulations, and certainly I look forward to working with you in the community, and well wishes on your retirement. Enjoy yourself, and just enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to say a few words, Bear? You might come to the mic if you would like.
I might not be able to hear you.
They might be able to hear me. I'm humbled to be here this evening for this. 30 years went by real quick. I enjoyed it. I hated it at the times, but mostly I loved it with a passion. It's one of the greatest jobs you can do is serve your country and serve your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Bear. We're honored, and congratulations. And at this time, I'll present the key to the city.
And I think, is it okay if we have a few of the firefighters come up too for the picture? Yes. We'll try to keep everybody spaced out as best we can. But if you're a firefighter with us joining us tonight, please come up. And if you want to hold the... Up here? Yeah, I want to get on one side with your badge and the helmet. And then I'll do all that. You need me to move it further?
Just take it.
I'm back. plaque might be a little bit nicer than one that I made.
I actually had that hanging on my point over at home. That's how proud of it I was. Yeah, we're looking at April of next year, 1-year anniversary of retirement. We're going to do the fundraiser that we were planning on doing for the fires again. So we'll get spaghetti dinner going again, and we'll do it all. Hopefully, the COVID stuff will level out and we'll be able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
And item C, we have with us Christy Campbell from the Cole County Health Department. She's going to give us an update on the pandemic. Welcome, Christy. We're glad to have you here this evening.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Madam Mayor, Council. First, I wanted to say thank you for letting me come and give an update. I know it's been a little while. And thank you for all the work that all the city agencies have helped on this public health emergency. The fire department, the law enforcement, our shared E&D, all the agencies, I mean, even Public Works, even though they didn't have a report in the EOC, they still came. So, everyone has been very supportive, very collaborative, and this is definitely new territory for all of us, something that, when I signed on as Public Health Director, I didn't think I'd ever have to face, but we've all been learning and dealing with it every day, and I really appreciate all the work that the city agencies have done to help us. And you especially, Ian, the city administrator, it's been really nice having you on our team. Also, I could probably talk about COVID all day long, whether you want to hear it or not. So I'm just going to hit some highlights, and then if I use terminology that you might not be familiar with, stop me, or if you have specific things you want me to cover, I'd be happy to do that too. So I'll just say a few things, and then we could have some just discussion. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So I did some calculations as of 3 today, and then the website was updated as well. Right now we have 67 active cases in the county. 248 have recovered or been released from quarantine. We could talk about that if we need to, about what release from quarantine means. We've had 2 deaths, and we have a total of 317 cases. 26% of that 317 are unknown exposure, or what we might call community spread. Like when we talk to them, they're either asymptomatic or they're not sure where they might have been exposed. So 74% are related to travel or contact to a known case. Some of them they traveled together. Sometimes it was just travel. Sometimes it was contact to a known case. So that is 74% of our cases. So we would still consider that low community spread. Sorry, it's hard for me to talk and breathe through the mask. I have issues. So, as you know, the goal of the shutdowns and the other public health measures that we took earlier this spring were to slow the spread of the virus. The goal was never to eradicate the virus. We know it's here. We know that we have to learn to deal with it, whether through treatment or prevention, but the goals of the shutdowns and the other things that we did were never to eradicate the virus, just to slow down the spread, because we wanted to make sure that the hospitals were able to take care of patients effectively, have the equipment they needed, and we want to make sure that the public health system was able to keep up with the contact tracing. So as we opened back up, we anticipated an increase in cases. And unfortunately, we're seeing an increase now in July especially, and the cases continue to increase statewide. Thankfully, most of the cases that we've seen here have been mild symptoms. Many describe it like allergies or sinus infections. We get that a lot. People think, oh, I thought it was just allergies or a sinus infection. So mild symptoms. We've had low hospitalizations, and I'm proud to say that my staff have been able to continue to do contact tracing on every single case. We typically follow up between 24 to 48 hours between when we get the positive result. Sometimes it might be 5 to 9 days. It depends on the lab. Around here, it's usually 2 to 5. I've heard in other parts of the state, it's 5 to 9 days before sometimes the local health agency gets the positive result. It depends on the lab and DHSS. Negatives take longer. There's been quite a backlog at the state of the input of data. Positives, they turn around faster than the negative data, because of course the positives are more important. So we have been very effective in following up on all the positive cases. So as soon as we hear the positive case, we get a hold of the person and we interview them to discuss their close contacts. So it's those people that they've been in contact with within 6 feet for 15 minutes. And we go like 48 hours before their symptoms started, when they were pre-symptomatic or asymptomatic, or if they have no symptoms, we'll go 48 hours before that positive test. And we'll talk to them about everyone that they've been in close contact with to determine their contacts. There was a great article in News Tribune today, if you saw it, about how we do that contact tracing. We could talk about that more if you want, but and I said in the article, we need to emphasize, all the precautions that we've been talking about from the beginning. I think, like quarantine fatigue, people are also getting fatigued with all the things that they need to be doing with the social distancing, the hand washing, staying home with their sick, covering their coughs, cleaning, distancing from people, wearing their masks when it's appropriate. All the things are important. They all provide a layer. I guess if I have to pick one, I would probably say social distancing is the most important, because it is that 6 feet within 15 minutes. The masks do add an extra layer, but they're not a substitute for social distancing. So in the situation where people are within 6 feet for 15 minutes, if both people are wearing a cloth mask, we would still consider them a contact. CDC still says that the mask may protect or could prevent, but it is not a substitute for social distancing, and we would still consider them a contact to a positive case. We've been working hard with the schools to develop plans to help them reopen in the safest way possible, but we want to get the kids back in school. And the plans are in place for what will be done if or when we have a case in the school. We've also been talking about doing an educational campaign to reinforce all the things that can be done to prevent the spread, and what the symptoms they need to be looking for, and the things that they can do. We also need to emphasize, I guess my soapbox on this is public health as a whole. As public health, we don't just look at one person, we look at the community. We don't look at just one virus, one communicable disease, we look at all of them. And probably the thing that bothers me the most about everything that's been going on is the public health repercussions we're going to see for some time to come. Because as we've had this focus on one virus, our opioid deaths are going up, our suicides are going up, our child abuse is going up, our domestic violence is going up, our sexually transmitted diseases, and then our immunization rates are going down. So I think we all need to work together to realize that, public health in whole is going to need some attention for years to come, because of the focus that has been on one virus. And that's not just in Cole County, that's going to be statewide and nationwide. So I would encourage you, if you have kids that need those immunizations, go, get your well checks done, get those immunizations, don't put it off, and they're all important. So we need to make sure that we keep all of public health in the forefront. So I know I covered a lot, and I probably said some things that I spoke too fast and said things that weren't understandable, so ask questions.
Christy, I think you gave us a great overview, and I know this is something that we do need to continue to be diligent about, and as leaders in the community, whatever we can do to help get that message out, and reminding people that, like you said, it's an approach of many things, and we need to do them all. We can't only choose one. You can't only wear a mask or only keep up with sanitizing hands. You have to do them all together, and distancing, like you said, is truly the most important. So keeping all of those factors in mind together is important. Does council have any questions for Mrs. Campbell?
Here, let me get out of here.
Nope, I just have a quick question, because I feel like, with the spike in cases, and I just heard today of a potential case, not that I was exposed to, but it impacts other people that are potentially exposed. if somebody learns that they have been exposed to somebody who has tested positive, what are you recommending that? And let's say they were within proximity, that's 6 feet for 15 minutes. What are you telling that person to do in that situation?
They're expected to quarantine at home away from others for 14 days.
Okay.
Because the incubation period is 2 to 14 days. So that's when the positive case would give us those names, and we would contact all of the contacts
Okay.
without telling them who told us, and because it's all kept confidential, and we would let them know that they were exposed and they need to quarantine for 14 days.
And should that individual seek a test themselves?
That's really up to them. I think that's, like, Boone County also talked about this in the article, that's why their positivity rate, you see, their cases are increasing, but the positivity rate is increasing because the people that have been exposed, when they start having symptoms, they go get tested. So our recommendation would probably be to wait until they got tested, just because it is hard actually to get a test if you're asymptomatic, unless you're going to have surgery or some other things, because the capability of our hospital and the testing availability, which we're going to try to increase that too. But we usually recommend to wait until they have symptoms. Some of that has to do with your viral load too, and whether or not the test is sensitive enough to pick up the RNA yet. So that's what we would probably recommend.
Okay.
Because you could test negative today and positive tomorrow. So it's probably better to wait.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Sure. Oh, did you have a question? Oh, I thought I saw you raise your hand.
Okay. Well, Christy, we appreciate your update on that, and we have been continuing to share your information. You are getting that, of course, from reliable sources and sharing your press releases, and I think that's important that we as a community continue to share your message.
Thank you. Yeah, I will, one point that Councilman Hensley and I were emailing back and forth, because it does seem like there will be one article one week stating one thing and another article and next week saying another thing, and what to get, what experts do you listen to? And we do take all of our guidance from Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And we do have our medical director, Dr. Kaywood, that assists us with standing orders, but all of our guidance for contact tracing or contacts or any of that comes straight from DHSS and CDC. So, thank you very much.
Christy. And I know as elected leaders, we do receive a lot of questions from constituents on what they can do to stay safe, or what kind of things that we may take actions as a council. And we've always worked very closely with you from the very beginning with every decision we've made, and we appreciate the close relationship we have between the city and county in working this together.
I appreciate
And certainly, I think it's important that we continue to refer people to your website and to some of the information you put out, and we will continue to do so, and reminding people, like you said, the most important thing is keeping that distance.
Yes, thank you.
You also touched on, while we have you here, a few other important health-related things that are coming up. I know you had mentioned that this is World Breastfeeding Week. Would you like to give us an update on that?
Sure, it is World Breastfeeding Week, so we're celebrating that, and we have some yard art out in front of the health department. So we would encourage people to go take their picture with the yard art. There is a little contest that our staff are doing, but we do want to realize and make people realize that one part of public health doesn't stop just because another part's working on a pandemic. We have staff that are working diligently on all aspects. Last week they said, or a week before maybe, it was 1,900 ounces of donated breast milk to the milk bank in St. Luke's that helps, they pasteurize the milk and homogenize it and pasteurize it again and give it to the babies in the NICU. So we have great staff that are working on all kinds of projects. So yeah, I would encourage you to stop by the health department and see the yard art that we have out in front for World Breastfeeding Week.
We will do that. And you mentioned immunizations as well.
Yes, it's an important time depending on what grade your child is going into school, there are certain immunizations that are required, and we would encourage, to get those well visits scheduled either with your physician or at the health department and get those immunizations taken care of. Don't put it off because you're worried about going to the doctor. They're all safe, and it's a good time to go.
Great. Well, we're lucky to have you, Christy, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Item 5, we have no public hearings, no appointments by the mayor, presentations from staff, consultants, and invited guests. So we'll move on to item 8, which is announcements. And our council committee meetings are at jeffersoncitymmo.gov. Are there any council committee announcements? Councilwoman Wiseman.
Thanks. I just wanted to note that the Committee for Administration is going to be held on Wednesday at 7:30 a.m., but we're going to do it via WebEx. So That's a little bit different than our regular format.
Thank you. Any other committee announcements?
Yeah, I'll announce for Budget Committee now.
Thank you.
Our next meeting is going to be this Thursday evening at 5:30, also by WebEx. And during that meeting, we'll hear budget presentations from several of the city departments.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, and item B, we have historic preservation. We have, would Sonny, Mr. Sanders?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last year, the city was awarded a Historic Preservation Foundation grant to conduct a structural survey of the unreinforced masonry structures in downtown and along Dunklin Street. Approximately 100 properties were surveyed. We have that report back. We have notified the property owners and have sent them the report, and we're going to have a meeting. It can either be WebEx if you care to, or you can actually come in person on Tuesday, August 18th at 5:30 in the police training room. And anyone is welcome to attend. You don't have to be a property owner. You could be just a resident or a tenant of one of those buildings. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Sanders on that? Okay, thank you. Item C, census update. Is anyone here to make that? Okay, I'll do that announcement then. That is just a reminder that it is not too late to respond to the census. If you haven't done it already, you can go to 2020census.gov. And also a reminder that they cannot release any identifiable information about you, your home, your business, or to law enforcement agencies, and that is protected information. And that it's extremely important that we do that because it allocates the dollars of federal funding that we would receive. Also a reminder that census workers will have an ID badge with their photograph, a Department of Commerce watermark, and an expiration date. The Census Bureau will never ask you for your social security number, your bank account, credit card numbers, or anything on behalf of a political party or money or donations. So you can go to census or 2020census.gov to learn more. So it is not too late. Please do so if you haven't. We did have a city and county committee focused on the census, but with the pandemic that has really turned a little bit virtual, but please keep that at the forefront if you haven't done it already. And I will finish out with some of my announcements. So over the weekend was the Parks and Rec Community Bike Ride on Saturday night, or actually more like Sunday morning, and that was a moonlight bike ride. It was a perfect evening to do that around Jefferson City. So it was about 15 miles, and really enjoyed having that experience. So that was definitely an adventure, and I would invite everybody to join me next time to do that community bike ride at 2 a.m. It was a lot of fun. And also part of the ride went right through Community Park, and we basically made a big loop around the city. But speaking of Community Park, that was scheduled to have a ribbon cutting last week, but due to the rain, that is currently being rescheduled. So I know Councilman Kemner will keep us posted on when that is to be rescheduled. Also announcement, the Bicentennial Bridge has a groundbreaking date set. That is this coming Monday, August 10th at 8:30 a.m. at the Capitol. So very excited to finally break ground on that long-awaited project. And also Guns N' Hoses hockey tournament is August 22nd. So if you haven't bought your tickets, that typically sells out. But even if you can't attend, we would encourage you to donate to the cause. They raise money for Safety Net, and it's a lot of fun, but it's also definitely helping those that need it. So Guns N' Hoses, August 22nd. Any other announcements by council? Okay, and moving on to item 9. I know we still don't have yet a Lincoln University student. Carlos, anything to add?
No, we're still looking at face-to-face on the 24th of this month, but it's still fluid, so we'll keep you on monitoring how things going, so that's where we at.
Thank you. Item 10, presentations from the gallery on specific bills or resolutions. Do we have anyone signed up? No? Okay. Item 11, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 12, bills introduced 2020, number 10.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri terminating and dissolving the High Street Tax Increment Financing District, special allocation fund and the tax increment allocation financing associated therewith.
Mr. Holman?
Allocating and
Sorry.
authorizing the transfer of said monies in the special allocation fund, if any, to the Cole County Collector for distribution in accordance with the act, and authorizing certain future actions.
Mr. Molman?
Thank you. This bill terminates and dissolves the High Street Tax Increment Financing Plan, generally compromising the O'Donoghue's building. This redevelopment plan has been completed, and all project costs have been paid out of the TIF Special Allocation Fund, so therefore, under state law, this TIF needs to be wrapped up, and the appropriate way to do so is with this ordinance.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. 2020-11.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Appendix Y of the City Code pertaining to calculation of building permit fees and establishment of building plan review fees.
Mr. Sanders?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Currently, to evaluate property for being able to issue a building permit, we either take the application, the dollar amount that's put on there, or use a RS means calculation, which is a very tedious process. We propose going ahead and using the International Code Council's building valuation data chart that is published each August. It is fairly simple to use, as opposed to having a very large book manual to be able to evaluate property. It's a two-page chart that basically you look at the type of building and the type of construction, and it's very easy to use. We're doing this because we want to be able to have consistency between the building permit fees that we issue for two similar types of structures. It also would help the developer so that when they're talking to a client, they can easily go ahead and calculate how much that building permit fee is going to be right then and there. So it helps out the communication on their side. So that would that itself would have, we're estimating here, a fiscal impact of an increase of building permit revenue, just so that we have two projects, they'll both be charged the same permit fee. So we anticipate an increase in revenues. Not necessarily they're all going to go up, there'll just be some outliers that actually increase. Along with this is also what we're calling our building permit down payment. Basically, to help facilitate issues that arise when someone submits a building plan, we review it, then they pull the project, or quite often, not often, but rarely someone will submit a totally different plan that we have to review. So we propose collecting 20% of the building permit fee up front when we review the plan, and after we issue the building permit, that would be credited into the building permit fee. So it's not a new fee, we're just collecting the fee up front to help cover some unexpected expenses when we do work without getting reimbursed for that. With that, we also anticipate around $7,500 of increased revenue, because we would then be collecting a 20% fee on a building that we review, spend a few days reviewing it, but it is not actually constructed. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Hesse?
My only question was one I asked at committee as well, that we're switching to a common practice that developers are going to have experience in other communities, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we're not creating something that's new and unique to Jefferson City?
No. I believe this method is probably more accepted than the RS means method.
And if I recall, you even worked with folks in our development community who
Yes.
declared a preference for this particular style of fee
It's a lot
calculation.
simpler. We did involve the development community on this and our next bill too. We reached out to them, got their feedback, and all positive.
Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Sunny. 2020-12.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 8, Buildings and Building Regulations, and Appendix Y of the City Code pertaining to establishment of water conditioning, contractor license, and fees thereof.
Mr. Sanders?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Currently, right now, to service or install a water softener, you have to have a plumber's or journeyman's plumbing license. The water softening companies, service providers, approached the plumbing board and brought up the issue of, can we have a separate license just for the contractors that install and service these water conditioners? So the plumbing board discussed it, reached out to the plumbing community, and it was determined to create a basically a water conditioning contractor's license. The requirement would be to be able to pass a certification test from the Water Quality Association as a certified installer. The fiscal impact is minimal. We anticipate maybe over the course of the first 3 years, $300, $600 in licensing fees, and then after that, maybe $60 to $120 annually after 3 years. And I would like to mention also, we omitted the part of the schedule fee that mentions the water softening renewal fee of $30, and we'll have a substitute bill at the next council meeting that addresses that. So I'd be glad to answer any questions with that.
Thank you. Any questions? 2020-13.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri adopting a budget and personnel classification plan for the city for the period of November 1, 2020 to October 31, 2021, and appropriating money in the city treasury to pay the cost of operating the city government during that period in accordance with the budget.
Ms. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the city clerk mentioned, this is for the operating budget for fiscal year 2021. It is both for the general fund and all funds. The general fund at this point is $32.8 million, and the total funds are a little over $64.6 million. But then we have just started our budget meetings with the Budget Committee, so those numbers are subject to change. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. 2020-14.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri providing for the levy city taxes and establishing the rate of taxation for the City of Jefferson, Missouri for the year 2020.
Ms. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So state statute requires that cities establish their property tax rates on an annual basis. Our tax rates have not changed from the calendar year 2019. For the general fund, it's 46 cents, and for the fireman's retirement, it's .0961 cents, for a total of .5561. The attachment that you have in your packet has not been updated. We just received numbers from Cole County on Friday, and we have yet to receive the Callaway County numbers yet, so we'll have those updated for the next meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? 2020-15.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri amending the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by supplementally appropriating funds for gap financing under the blight removal funding agreement with the Housing Authority.
Mr. Mullman?
Thank you. This bill asks for a supplemental appropriation of $50,357.60 to go from the fund balance in the general fund to the LCRA gap financing line item to cover the city's obligations under the blight removal funding agreement with the LCRA, which is actually the Housing Authority acting as LCRA. The council had previously allocated $259,000 into this line item for phase 1 of the project. That money has been used to acquire, it was originally intended to acquire 3 properties. That money has been able to be used to acquire those original 3 properties. Acquire 4 more properties with 4 more properties kind of in the hopper that this agreement or this ordinance is meant to address, particularly the sale of 501, 507, and 511 and 513 East Capitol to Stitt Barony LLC has necessitated this appropriation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, 2020-16.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to return funds back to the State of Missouri Department of Economic Development to close out the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Neighborhood Stabilization Program.
Mr. Sanders?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since it's been a couple of years since we talked about 408 Lafayette Street, I'm going to just give a brief background and some history on it. It was purchased by the city as part of our neighborhood stabilization program to create affordable housing for low to moderate income families for $54,000. Staff proceeded to put a new roof on it as part of the rehabilitation. In 2012, the FEMA flood maps were updated, and they then showed the structure actually being in the floodplain, that set off what we call the 50% rule and floodplain requirements. So basically, over a 10-year period, you cannot put more than 50% improvement of the value of the structure that you're going to be improving. Now, we'd also, if we were going to put a family in there, we'd have to incur more costs, which we actually couldn't do because we participate in the National Floodplain, National Flood, whatever it is, the National Flood Insurance Program, and we have codes that have these requirements in there. So we really couldn't do anything with that program. We got permission to use funds, some remaining funds, to demolish the building in 2013. As part of that environmental review, we put notices out. Citizens saw it. They said, hey, that's a historic structure. We went through the process and created a local historic district and didn't do anything with that property. In 2018, staff was charged with asking HUD if we can somehow be forgiven, since we kind of fell into this awkward situation with the floodplain maps changing. Through our conversations with the Department of Economic Development and HUD, they have agreed to allow the program to have us pay the money back to the state. They would credit our NSP program, and we would be able to draw down on those funds for another infrastructure project. So while we may be paying back money to the Department of Economic Development, it would actually go into account for us to draw down to do infrastructure projects. With that, we're asking for a supplemental appropriation of $78,805 of general revenue funds to go ahead and close out our program, but have that be to help support closing the program out and use that for some other infrastructure projects. Long-winded, I'm sorry, but I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders, and that's good news. They will allow us to use that
Yes.
for something else, so that is great. Councilman Hussey?
And then just for clarity's sake, because the 78,000 sort of anchor on this, it's gone now. And so at that point, we are free and clear as a council to do what with 408?
Yes, sir. Actually, having removed the federal ties, it's up to the council to do what they wish with it. It is still in a floodplain. It's in a historic district. The council could surplus it. They could do requests for proposals for improvements. They could donate it to an organization. They could demolish it. Parks owns 2 adjacent properties next to it. Originally, the idea was that would be an open space. Don't know if that's a valid thing to do now with the historic district there, but certainly the council can do what they want with it. I did not really want to muddy the waters up between releasing these ties and getting into the discussion of what happens to it. So I plan on working with Ryan and some other city staff and coming up with the menu of what the options are, and that way the council has something to consider to start with. And certainly citizens are probably more than welcome to provide information to the council too.
Yeah, and if I recall in previous conversations about the property, that we always had that sort of federal tie to this that was kind of,
Yes,
holding us back from taking action. But at this point, if the 78,000 is returned back to the city for another project, in terms of money we've put into the property, is sort of federal funds were used for it, and we're still going to have those federal funds for another project, and so therefore,
Yes, sir.
getting rid of the property and maybe not getting a big financial return is okay at that point.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilman Graham?
I know we'll talk about this more on next week, but I guess it's questions for Margie. So is the 78,000, would that come out of fund balance? It would, so it's not a special fund that's sitting out there that could be used for the 78? Okay.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you. Item 13, bills pending. We've already taken up number 6 about the Veterans Plaza. And number 7,
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 19, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Schedule Z, Residential Permit Parking Zones by addition of the east side of the 1400 block of Huff Park Road.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, as the clerk mentioned, this bill would authorize a residence permit parking zone on Huff Park Drive, which is across from Laurel Heights School. The zone will be approximately 4 spaces. Residence permit parking zone means during the daytime hours and schools in session, only the residents of those houses can purchase permits and would be allowed to park in those particular spots. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? 2020, number 8.
Do you want to take a roll call?
Oh, gosh. Sorry. Roll call, please.
Graham?
Aye.
Hensley?
Aye.
Hussey?
Aye.
Kimna?
Aye.
Lester?
Aye.
Schreiber?
Aye.
Vogt?
Aye.
Ward? Wiseman? Aye. Fitzwater?
Aye.
Bill passes. I'm going to blame this on having 2 hours of sleep from doing that community bike ride the other night, but that's okay. I'll get rested up here. Now let's go to 2020 number 8.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Burns and Mcdonald Engineering Company Incorporated in the amount of $57,000 for the biosolids management study project.
Mr. Smith.
Yes, as the clerk mentioned, this bill would authorize a contract with Burns and McDonald in the amount of $57,000 to do a study on our biosolids management process and the equipment used to do that. The funds for this project would be coming from our wastewater fund, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Hensley?
Aye.
Hussey?
Aye.
Kimna?
Aye.
Lester?
Aye.
Schreiber?
Aye.
Vogt?
Aye.
Ward? Wiseman? Aye. Fitzwater?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Bill passes. Nothing on the informal. Item 15, resolutions. We have Resolution 2023.
A resolution authorizing the city to participate in the interlocal agreement between the City of Jefferson and County of Cole 2020 Burn Justice Assistance Program Award.
Lieutenant Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the clerk said, this will allow us to enter into an agreement with Cole County to allow the funds from the Burn JAG grant to be utilized. The fund actually is split between the city and the county, a 60-40 split. Currently, that is $10,000, $10,415 to be exact, and that allows us to enter into this agreement for it to be set forth as the grant allows, which is to utilize the funds for, in our case, the city's case, a police academy attendee at the University of Missouri. If, and when approved, the management add-ons from the police department would take care of the application process and the administrative duties associated with this. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lieutenant Williams. Is there a motion to approve 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions, discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Hussey?
Aye.
Kimna?
Aye.
Lester?
Aye.
Schreiber?
Aye.
Vogt?
Aye.
Ward? Wiseman? Aye. Fitzwater?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Hensley?
Aye.
Resolution passes. 2020 number 4.
A resolution authorizing the use of the remaining supplemental appropriation funds for demolition of additional dangerous buildings.
Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last December, the council provided for a $300,000 supplemental appropriation to address the dangerous buildings up on High Street. That episode is behind us, and we have approximately $61,000 left in that fund, and I'm requesting that we be permitted to use it for the demolition of 517 Capitol Street. Excuse me, my slide was wrong. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. So here's a picture of the building. It's basically a fourplex. Some of the notes from the dangerous building hearing are down there in the bottom in terms of the roof having collapsed. The second floor system is compromised. The first floor system stairs, and it is deteriorated. So we've got some inside slides. Oh, excuse me, first in the back. You can't really tell, it looks a little washed out here. But if you look up to the windows to the right, where you would normally see the top of the window frame, you see sunlight. And you can see a large portion of that roof is missing. That wall is cracked. And then if you go to the inside of the building, well, once again, I don't have my slides memorized. There's another picture of it, so you can kind of see the damage. It's been like that, not just, this picture was actually prior to the tornado, and it had been like that for many, many years. So the inside is really bad. I was unfortunate enough to be able to go in on this board up back in March of 2019. So the picture on the left there, you're actually standing about a third of the way in between the two front rooms on the side looking back to the back. So what you see, let's see, is there a pointer on here? there we go. So this is the back window, one of the windows that actually has its top to it. Here's the ceiling, the walls, part of the floor has collapsed right there in front of you. You can't really tell in these pictures, but there's supposed to be a floor here. There's no floor here right there. So these are basically the same picture, kind of show you what it looks like there. If you're still standing there and you turn to the right, you see that picture on the left and you see part of a stairway and a handrail. That part of the house is collapsing also. If you're daring enough to lean over there with your camera, and I actually did, I don't think this is one of my pictures, but there's a tree growing in there. Part of that building actually had sort of I don't know what you call it, but in the older buildings, the only ventilation they had was a common area in the middle of the building that had an opening roof so people could open their windows. That window there on the right is actually an interior window. It was designed for ventilation. I'm sorry, I'm not an architectural expert, but that is actually on the inside of the building while it looks like the outside of the building. One of the reasons we are extremely concerned, if you see the picture on the left, there's literally less than a foot between those two buildings there. The property owner on the left in the White House has recently spent money as directed by the housing authorities, part of their effort to redevelop that part of the city, and they painted and they invested more money into that property. And then over on the right, you can actually see that it's about a foot between the two buildings. You can see that column is failing. That was one of the items, actually all the front porches, if you look up at them, they're collapsing in too. So we are extremely concerned that that building will come down in an uncontrolled manner, and we would like to go ahead and use funds that are already in our budget, not requesting new money, but use the money that was earmarked by the council for addressing the 202 High Street issue. So in closing, I don't like my staff going in there. We have to go in there and clear squatters out every now and then. Basically, we unboard the door, unboard the windows, and we yell at them to get them out of there when they're in there. We hope for the best we get them out. Police and fire, it's not safe for them to go in there either. And then the neighboring home, we're really concerned about that. We've gone through the process. We had an administrative hearing. The finding of fact basically said that we followed the proper process, and the order was upheld to abate the nuisance. So that is what I'm asking for tonight, is to be able to use the money that's appropriate for another need, for demolishing 202 if needed, to go ahead and demolish this building. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders, for that presentation, and I think it also shows the importance of what we are doing on Capitol Avenue with this process and eminent domain, and unfortunately, there are homes that have become a liability to the city that are at this stage, and that's why this process has been so important. We always prefer to be able to turn them over to be renovated, but in some cases, it becomes a problem of the city to have to deal with. So thank you for that update, and is there any council, is there a motion to approve, first of all, 2024?
So moved.
Any further questions or discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Kimna?
Aye.
Lester?
Aye.
Schreiber? Vogt?
Aye.
Ward? Wiseman? Fitzwater?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Hensley?
Aye.
Hussey?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2025.
A resolution authorizing the city of Jefferson to enter into an automatic aid agreement.
Chief Schofield.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an agreement with the Regional West Fire Protection District, which is our neighbor to the north and to the west. And it specifically addresses responses on the Missouri River, navigable waterways attached to the Missouri River. For mutual aid, we have always participated in statewide mutual aid with our neighbors. The difference here is that it's an automatic aid agreement, which is a form of mutual aid, but it allows us to respond immediately upon dispatch of Regional West resources. We would also be dispatched, and it also provides converging rescue response on the river that should give us a more timely response, and also the ability to converge upstream, so that should an emergency exist on the river, we're able to respond much more quickly and deal with it when it occurs versus waiting for it to come potentially into our jurisdiction. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve 2020?
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Lester?
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Votes.
Aye.
Ward. Wiseman. Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Item 16, presentations from the gallery on other topics. All individuals will be limited to 3 minutes, and presentations can be made from the podium unless otherwise. Is there anyone here signed up?
Mr. Gus Wagner is signed up to speak on police and community.
Welcome, Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Good to see everybody. I appreciate your time this evening, and I have shortened my presentation down, or to try to make the 3 minutes that has been requested. I'm here today to talk about some community issues. First, I'd like to commend Chief Schrader and Captain Wild for opening their door to me last Friday morning to have a frank discussion between ourselves about perception being reality. And the cause of this meeting is because my perception of our city, my perception is that our city was bruised last Thursday afternoon. To be at a lengthy discussion regarding the tactics used last Thursday afternoon during the peaceful protest. I'd commend Captain Wild, which by the way is the best DJ name ever, he acknowledged that there were some aggressive actions, and he was the officer in charge on the scene, and he encouraged the officers to pull back for some of those. So he did diffuse a potentially tense situation. Where my disagreements are, and I believe I've stated this to several of you already, my disagreements are on the use of pepper balls and open field tackles and the SWAT team presence and the involvement of 4 law enforcement agencies to handle a crowd of around 20 people. So during our discussion as well, there was some light shed on some of the underfunding and missed opportunities of the Jefferson City Police Department operations. And this time that we live in right now, I believe we have the opportunity as a community to have tough discussions and to reevaluate how we do things in this community, because they don't always have to be done the same way. And to navigate the community challenges we have, be they economic, be they related to law enforcement, or be they related to communications. I think most of you are aware of my concern and commitment to this community since I washed up on its shores some 17 years ago. And I believe some of you are familiar with my political and government history as well. You may not be aware of my personal law enforcement history, as I've had a decades-long relationship with the law enforcement community, including being a volunteer for various organizations back home. And my father was an officer for 30 years in the city of Kirkwood. I grew up around police, I respect police, and I know it is not an easy job. I have a couple of suggestions to go over in 45 seconds. First, I think we need more training for our police officers here in Jefferson City, be that on communications, be that on implicit bias, be that on mental health, dealing with mental health issues when they're out on the streets and when they're inside their own bodies and they're inside their own minds. The issue that was brought up repeatedly to me was the need for more dispatchers. And I had a very difficult experience last Thursday evening with dispatchers kicking me back and forth from various departments here within law enforcement agencies within this community, and lack of knowledge of what the actual actions were. 7 seconds. I'd also urge there should be a full-time communication officer for this city, one person to handle all city departments, namely because I learned something interesting during our discussion last Friday that was unknown to me, somebody who's plugged into this community as much as I am, and I'm sure is unknown to many of the citizens here in Jefferson City. There was an officer shot some 2 months ago, plus or minus. He took 2 shots to the vest, and obviously he is still alive and still performing his services here to the city, but who knew about that? How did I not know about that? The officers in the meeting on Friday told me that incident received a small little blurb on the side of the front page of the News Tribune. The city has to become a self-reporter of its news, of its opportunities, of its communications and actions, both negative and positive, that happen here in this community. I think we can evidence of that is the lack, I believe, of any media resources in this room this evening. So we could go on and on about the need for that. I do have other comments and suggestions. I will submit a written comment to the full council tomorrow, and I do appreciate your time and will welcome any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Any questions?
Mr. Hussey?
Just to give you some of the floor, what other suggestions might you have?
What other suggestions might I have?
I'm giving you a form of a question so you can
Okay.
continue on a little bit. So
I
the question
appreciate
is,
that.
What other suggestions do you have?
I'd begin going back to the communications difficulties that the city has with its community, to urge an open door and transparent operations of the police department here in Jefferson City. If the community at large knew the struggles they have, the opportunities they are missing, as well as the programs that are available to them, there might be a better relationship with some communities within Jefferson City with the Jefferson City Police Department. I believe that when it comes to the budget situation regarding the Jefferson City Police Department and some of the questions that I had Friday with the administration there, and I'd urge for a state audit of the Jefferson City Police Department as a starting point to have a conversation regarding what's going on over there, what could be done better, and what's going right with the Jefferson City Police Department. Another step that could be taken here in Jefferson City would be the creation of an actual citizens police commission, a bipartisan group of Jeffersonians, be they related to law enforcement or may not be related to law enforcement, who could serve as advisors and additional communicators to the role of the police department within Jefferson City. This is an effort that's taken place in many communities across this country, and actually our cousins to the north in Columbia have one as well, not to add more comparison between our two fine cities. Another one that we could talk about that would relate back to the budget and the expenditures of the Jefferson City Police Department. What can we share between the police department, the sheriff's department, Lincoln University, Capitol Police, and whatever federal offices are undercover in this room or throughout our community? What shared resources could all of these agencies realize potential savings, potential efficiencies, and potential improvement? This could be related to the dispatch, the severe dispatch need. This could be related to the fact that we have 3 SWAT teams in Jefferson, in Cole County, and along with other points that could be addressed here with shared resources. So I think all of this comes back to the police are a visible identifier of Jefferson City within our community and outside of our community to our external visitors who are coming here, be it for the Capitol, be it for protests, be it for ice cream. The police are a constant and visual reminder of the operations of our city. The better we can improve these relations, these communications, these transparencies between the police department and the community they serve, and the communities within our city of Jefferson, I think we will all be better off, and I thank you for your time, and I will submit that written report.
Can I ask another follow-up? You said Citizens Police Commission, is that similar to what I've heard to call like a community oversight board or something in
Correct.
other communities?
Right.
So it's an interchangeable?
Right.
Okay.
And I state the word bipartisan. I know this is a nonpartisan role here in the city council, but also that I believe there needs to be multiple points of view from all areas of the community, not just, as we often have referred to, Councilman, the same 10 people.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening.
Sure. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Wagner.
Thank you for your time.
I do have confidence in and support the actions of the department, and I also think that it's important to have you come and give us your feedback. I think that even as we put out press releases, that certainly that information is put out there, but also the fact that you're able to come in and speak directly with Chief Schrader and Captain Wilde and have that one-on-one conversation, I think also is important and speaks volumes at the communication that we do have from every level of the department, and appreciate you taking the time to come and speak with them and to speak with us.
Sure. I will state, just to follow up there, Mayor, that both the chief and the captain commented that this rarely happens, somebody coming in to ask questions, to have that discussion. They were appreciative. Again, we did not agree on all points, but they were very appreciative of the fact that somebody from the community stepped up and asked the questions. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Donaldson, is there anyone else here to speak under item 16?
No.
Okay, thank you. Item 17, council and staff discussion of presentation topics. And item 18, is there any new business? 19, any unfinished business? I will announce that tomorrow is a primary election for Cole County on Tuesday, August 4th, so reminding everybody to vote. Item 20, Councilwoman Wiseman.
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.